So, YouTube Nation, this is volume 2 of the Trainmaster, the troubled Trainmasters, if you will. We've already got the Norfolk and Western taken care of, the one that was sparky, but I'm a little bit more excited about this particular project. This is what I found on eBay. This thing. Maybe you saw it on eBay. Maybe you didn't. I certainly did. And it is a Trainmaster. The eBay description said Athearn power chassis frame engine locomotive train. Condition is used, obviously. Older unit, runs slow, both directions. Needs cleaning and maintenance for optimal performance. May need other repairs. You think? I saw this and I'm like, okay, gotta have it. It is a Trainmaster because, one, you have the telltale gas tanks, air tanks, rather, behind the fuel tank. The wheel arrangement is typical of an Athearn Trainmaster. And it fits perfectly with this shell. Now, the shell may look familiar to you because this was the shell on the Trainmaster from the YouTube video where I turned the rust bucket into a runner. And I'll post a link to that video at the end. Now, that particular rust bucket, when I was towards the end, I was considering getting it another frame, and it has since been given a Norfolk and Western frame. Shell. So, I got this from eBay from an Athearn quote-unquote parts dealer. Got it. He let me have it for a very reasonable price. So the rust bucket is now a Norfolk and Western. Now, I don't know what my plans are with this shell because I already have a Trainmaster in Pennsylvania livery, numbered 8703. So I might do something with it. I could just renumber it. I'm not 100% certain at this point. My main concern right now is the proper repair and restoration. And I gotta give high marks to the ingenuity for, he's the previous owner, whatever, took this type of wire, he soldered the ends of the wire, or this part of the wire to the top motor clip, but he actually drilled holes into the gear towers. The orientation is also very wrong. Or it's just wrong, period, because since this is the front of the locomotive over here, the elbows of the gear towers should be facing me. not the opposite direction. This is wrong. It's horribly wrong. I mean, the guy didn't even think to like cutting the screw short so it wouldn't interfere with the gear worms. But you know, we'll fix all of this, and it's also very dirty. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the test track. Give me a second. So I have this unfortunate monstrosity on the test track. Power is on. It's in the forward direction. So now I'm going to apply some power. Is it derailed? Is it not? No, I'm going to have to check to see if these wheels are engaged. But let's start again. Look at it struggle. Yeah, it's on the rails. Now, curiously enough, despite the misorientation of the geared towers, it's going forward and reverse in the proper direction. Now, I'm hoping that with the sluggish performance, it could just be something in the gear towers, and I'm hoping there aren't any cracks in the axles. I hope the axles aren't cracked. Crack is whack. But you know, I'm eager to get in. So yeah, not even the light works. But we're gonna LED this baby. We're gonna fix a whole bunch of things with this. Let's begin. So, getting the light bracket off the frame was no difficulty at all. I'll put the light bracket back on the frame when we're ready to reassemble. So I've already got this. We're gonna go ahead and we'll reuse it. I mean, we'll just take this off, put an LED on there, but that's gonna get cleaned. Going to take a screwdriver and actually unscrew the connections to the gear towers. So there's one washer here underneath the screw. Here's the solder. Here's the wire. Here's another washer. Going to unscrew that. Remove that. It's very weird. This is very weird. I'm going to put the washers in here, in the screws. I'm going to go ahead and desolder that shortly. Just got to get the soldering gun warmed up. Remove that. Got the spring for the top motor clip. Gear worm, front gear worm cover off. Dislodge the front gear worm from the motor. And yeah, that could use a good cleaning. Look at that. This is the front gear worm. Disconnect that, disconnect that, disconnect that, disassemble that, clean that all up. Front gear tower is off, and just from a quick look-see, oh my god. Are you kidding me? Oh, wow. I think I know why this thing is running so slow. Look inside the gear tower. To any seasoned model railroader, I think I know why this thing is running so slow. Let me take off the rear gear tower. Yeah, from bad to worse. Look at that. I'm gonna move. Give that a good cleaning. Look at those splines. I'll be gosh darned. Oh, what the heck is that? Alright, so the rear gear tower is off. Front gear tower is off. This is a little bent. We'll clean that, straighten that out. And dislodge the motor. Oh yeah. Woohoo! Oh wow. Brittle motor mounts. Oh wow. That's fine. I got replacements. To any model railroader who's a Clint Eastwood fan, he had a movie in the early 80s, I think, Any Which Way But Loose. He had this orangutan named Clyde. And Philo Beto, which was Clint Eastwood's character, the character portrayed by Clint Eastwood, I think he was like he and his brother were, I guess they worked out of an auto parts graveyard or something like that. But Clyde was trained to part a car out. So you would see the scenes of Clyde, well, supposedly, disassembling a car. Throw all the parts out, you see all the parts flying and everything else. So, and I think Clint Eastwood also told Clyde to take apart some bad guy's car. I'm not sure if it was in Any Which Way But Loose or the sequel Any Which Way You Can. But I always thought that was funny. So I'm going to go ahead and get this silly soldering gun from Harbor Freight to cooperate. And for anyone who may have noticed in the previous Trainmaster video that I was holding a hot soldering gun, and I might have touched it with my hand, I did in fact burn my left hand with the soldering gun. So, I didn't say I was a rocket scientist. Yeah, off you go, pal. Oh yeah, clean you up too. What do we do with this wire? Do we reuse it? Do we toss it out? I'll set it to the side. And I'm going to keep the bottom motor clip in right now. Because if I remove the bottom motor clip right now, the motor tends to get the construction of the motor gets a little wibbly wobbly. So I'll just leave that in for the time being. Now, I want to get into the gear tower because I have an odd feeling what I'm going to see. Because I can already tell what's in there. I have an odd feeling what's in there. Bottom motor clip. No, it's on this side. This is one side of the gear tower, of the front gear tower. That needs to be cleaned. We'll clean that up. The axles. Oh my God. Yeah. Ernst gears. We meet again. I can't tell you enough how much I hate Ernst gear Ernst supposedly super gearing systems. It's no wonder that the gear towers were misoriented, because when you put Ernst super gearing systems, it not only slows it's supposed to make a locomotive seem more prototypical, and if you remount the gear towers in their proper orientation, with Ernst super gearing systems, the locomotive's going to run in reverse when you have your power pack set in the forward direction. I can't tell you enough how much I hate Ernst super gearing systems, because they're anything but super. Oh, that flew off into oblivion. How unfortunate. That's fine. I think I see it. Maybe I will reuse it. Maybe I won't. Maybe I just... But, you know, I have replacement parts. Get out of my gear tower. Get out of there. I'm not even going to bother cleaning you. This 45 tooth gear, which was part of the Ernst super gearing system, you can reuse it as long as it's, you know, this geared facing down. It will work, although not ideally. Maybe we'll clean it. Maybe we'll toss a coin. This is a proper 23 tooth gear. I do have spare 23 tooth gears. And I also, oh, look at these silly axles. Look at these pathetic gears on these axles. I have replacements. This is a proper gear on the axle. And it's, you know, it's filthy dirty. So we'll clean that. Let me get into the other gear tower. No, I didn't break anything. Yep. Well, this is the rear gear tower. Wow. Wow. Yep. Here's the rear axle, the proper axle. Filthy dirty. We'll clean that. Pathetic axle gear. Another pathetic geared axle. Proper 23 tooth gear. Yep, there you are. Maybe we'll reuse it, maybe we won't. I don't know. And maybe we'll clean you, maybe we won't. I'll let Harvey Two-Face decide that. Or maybe have the Daleks exterminate it. Oh yeah, look at that gear tower. Wow. All right, so I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to clean these things off camera and we'll reassemble them proper. Be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cleaned everything. I mean, this is the Trainmaster right here. I mean, it's just, that's better. Now you can see that. Now you can see everything. The frame is clean. The light bracket is reattached to the frame, and the motor has been cleaned and it's been lubricated. I treated it with my handy dandy WD-40 Specialist contact cleaner. The gear worms are cleaned, and the gear towers are cleaned. I'm going to take, I was thinking it over, and I'm pretty positive that I did the same thing with an FP45 that I discovered also had the Ernst Stavro Blofeld super gearing system. What I had done was, this is the 45 tooth gear. This inner gear works with those silly little gears that were underneath it, and this gear. But both of these gears were face down. They had to be put in face down to interact with those stupid little gears, which are not going back in, but I could still reuse these gears. Now, when it comes to most Athearns, orientation does not matter when it comes to the axles. However, when you're using Ernst gearing systems, the orientation does matter with the the axles that it has to work with it. So as long as you put the axle in the right spot, then it will mesh with the gears. So that was decision number one. Decision number two was, I'm not going to use this thing. No bueno. I'm not. It was ingenious, but I wasn't too happy with it. Adios. So I'm going to use a different wire, but I took an old motor clip, cut it into two. I'm going to put this on top of the top motor clip of the motor, and I tinned each end because that's where the wire from each gear tower will go. It's tinned over here for the LED wires. The gear towers themselves are cleaned. The rear gear tower I tinned because that's where one of the LED wires will go. So I'm ready to reassemble. So if you'll bear with me, and if I can get Clipchamp to speed up the process, to speed up the recording of the reassembly, then I won't bore you so much. So fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, so the rebuild could have gone a whole lot better. During the course of remounting the motor, one of the little screw heads decided to insert itself stem side up, so I had to fight with that. I'm sure you saw that in the footage. Then, after everything was said and done, I experienced an issue. It just wasn't running. It would run for a couple of inches and then it would stop, and then it would start, but then it would just run in place, which meant there was an issue with the gears in one of the gear towers. So, suspecting that it was this motor clip that I had decided to use, I have since kicked it to the curb and soldered the wires to the top motor clip. Zoom in, Mr. Cameraman. So, as you'll notice, I do have heat shrink tubing so that nothing is messy. After soldering the wires to the top motor clip, it still had an issue. So, as it turned out, I just had to finagle with the front gear tower, and then it was cooperating, but then it was running in place. So, I desoldered the wire from the front gear tower and removed these axles because it was just... I removed these axles because they weren't cooperating. Even though I had them in the right orientation, I just kicked them to the curb, and fortunately I had spares. I replaced only the front gear tower axles. The rear gear tower appears to be behaving itself for now. So now, if I can zoom out, I have the power pack on in the forward direction, and away we go. Oh, come on, track. The test track is not sitting on a... can be a bit problematic. Sometimes I am going to have to work on something a little bit more substantial. But we do have ourselves a running locomotive. Alright, I have it on a more level length of track. There it is, sitting on the bridge. So now I am going to apply forward and reverse. And that was at a more fuller throttle, but I'm going to set it to a partial throttle setting and just look at her glide. So I'm a happy camper so far. The next challenge right now will be the shell, and I'm still on the fence what I'm going to decorate the shell as. because the stanchions are still in place and they are rather fragile, a little bit brittle. I know I have replacement stanchions from from an old Trainmaster dummy that is no longer with us. I'm just gonna put, as far as the stanchions on that shell go, I'm just gonna put wherever, but it's just a matter of what livery to give it. So, enough talk, more action. Okay, so this is what I've done with the shell. And yes, I have wandered very far off the reservation. I got inspiration for this livery, the paint scheme, from CPKC 9375, which was given the same sort of livery. Of course, the Badger is ordinarily right by the name of the railroad, but because we are working with a space constraint and because this is a high hood unit, why not put the Badger on the hood? It was the paint process was a little painstaking, but for the most part, the lines are clean. And through creative means, I was able to find the logo, and I was able to find road numbers, and I printed out the decals on my own. It was a little tricky getting this decal through the frame, through the railing and the stanchions. And I should point out that after the decal dried, I did have some spare stanchions, so I applied those to this side of the railing. And this is not a water slide decal. This is bright white paper. Because I knew it was going to be a challenge and a half to get a water slide decal through all these stanchions. So I just used bright white paper. It's the same thing for the Badger, because I could not find the Badger with the red background, so I had to improvise. I might clean up those edges a bit before I put the shell onto the frame. I mean, yeah, onto the locomotive. But yeah, I'm happy with this paint scheme. I mean, let's face it. If we're going to be model railroaders, we can't always stay on the reservation. Sometimes you just have to wander off the reservation. Sometimes it's the right thing to color outside the lines. Sure, the lines may be our friends, but sometimes you just gotta march to the beat of your own drum. So I'm gonna clean up the edges slightly, and then I'm gonna put this onto the frame and the chassis and see how she runs. Back in a bit. Well, she's running, but she's running weird. Current drawer is just all over the map. And I've opened her up more than once, checked all the connections. Everything seems to be fine, and there's nothing out of the ordinary that I can find that it's causing this erratic performance. But all the wiring is proper. There's nothing that should cause this thing from. There's nothing that I could see that would cause this thing to just behave erratically. Now, this is the main line that is not connected to the DCCEX. I'm kind of tempted to see how she is on one of the DCCEX main lines. Be right back. So, before I run the Trainmaster on the DCCEX mainline, there is no issue with the mainline connected to a DC power pack, because this over here is big red, and as you can see, her current draw and voltage are just fine. She's running just fine with no hiccups. So now that I know for sure that it's the locomotive and not the main line, I'm going to see how she responds on DCCEX. Be right back. Well, this is weird, but the command station kind of winked out. Must have been a lapse in the Wi-Fi, which is entirely possible. But even though she's on speed step 98, which is a tad high, but you know, she's running. She's running better than she was on the DC mainline, even though there is no problem with the main line. So I'm gonna chalk this up as a weird happenstance, but we're gonna keep an eye on this thing. Alright, honey. Let's see how you do with the consist. Alright. I took it off the main line. It was just too painful to watch. And it was dragging, which it shouldn't, because this is an Athearn. But I put the Ernst gear axle. I kept the Ernst gear axles in the rear gear tower, and I suspect that's one of its problems. But I really have to find out why it's having such a shorting issue. So it's back to the workbench. Well, she's running. Not spectacular. I do have to keep a high speed step. on the DCCEX main line so she won't stall out on the curves. I've rewired her again. There was an issue with the gear tower, the front gear tower, and I am somewhat stumped as to its performance because technically this should be running properly. There's nothing wrong with the motor at all. And there's nothing wrong with the main line. There's nothing wrong with any of the main lines. It's just, this just happens to be a Trainmaster with a bit of bad luck. But I did get this thing running, and despite its irreconcilable hiccups, I'm gonna call it, and I'm gonna make it a B+ job. But I'm happy because I got me a runner, and it's a lot better than it was before. So with that, I'd like to thank all my subscribers for their continued support. If you're not a subscriber, please remember to hit that subscribe button in the top, in the bottom right hand corner. Please like and share. And of course, thank you so much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.